if you have questions as we go through this, type them into the chat. I think during the presentation, we'll kind of just keep the presentation flowing, and then once we finish, we can get into some interesting discussions. We'll have about 10-15 minutes at the end. So I think this content is about 30-35 minutes, depending on how slow or fast Boris speaks today. But yeah, and then we'll get into some discussions. I'm sure you guys will have questions. And all right, let me share my screen and we'll rock this. We got some good stuff. I think we do. All right, desktop 2, share. All right. Boris, give me a thumbs up. You see in our first slide.
Yep.
All right, it's full screen.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So, as an entrepreneur myself, and Boris, and I spent nearly a decade running a company and multiple companies, and then doing a C-level role at the large startup, funded startup. I know the reason why most of us, or all of us, entrepreneurs or executives, or why we start businesses, or embark on a new venture with a company in a leadership role. And a lot of us want to make a difference, make something out of nothing, make something new happen, have fun doing it, kind of hit your unique ability within the new work that you're accepting or new business you're starting. It's kind of important. Big part of being happy is hitting that unique ability. And you're probably very passionate about architecture and design, engineering, and making things. However, a lot of times what we end up with is our vision of the business we're going to run is going to be something that we better than whatever was before. But in reality, when reality hits, it's not always the all cherry. It's a difficult thing to organize a business and grow a business and keep the team happy, and all those things that fly at you make you almost like I compare it to a traffic controller at the airport, always on, always vigilant. And so, your brain, a lot of times as a founder or a key executive, it just contains the key to the team's efficiency. I don't know if you found yourself in that position. I have, certainly many times. And when you add all of those other things on your plate, like sales, marketing, being the face of your company, and competitive pressures and customer problems, and on and on and on, it just becomes very difficult to grow and run that happy, well-oiled machine. And then we also had COVID, so that was not, it didn't make things easier for us. However, there's a way to take the business to the next level, and there are some outstanding architecture firms that are leading the way. A lot of them are clients we know intimately, and the way it's done is through the use of technology. And so today, Boris and I will sort of unpack very sort of, we're not going to go deep into the technical aspects. What we're going to stay with is more of a high level, the what. So there's a why, there's a what, and there's a how, right? The why is why we do something. And we already have the why because you started the business, you accepted the role you're in right now, because you have your why set. Now, the what of it is we're going to help you sort of organize that in your mind. And then if you want to have some how questions, happy to hit those at the end. But I'm going to let Boris introduce himself for a sec here.
Hi, everyone. Good to see everyone here. I'm Boris Rapoport, and I'm the CEO of ArchIT. I've been working with architects and engineers for over 20 years, providing IT solutions, IT services, IT support, and ensuring that technology is a competitive advantage for an architecture firm. I started the business just to basically put myself out there and help architects make sure that they realize technology as an advantage. And we've been in business for 4 years so far, and it's been going great. And I wish we can help a lot more people. So this is what I do. And Alex, introduce yourself.
Yeah, and it's fascinating the fact that Boris, you chose, and you stuck with this single industry. And in a lot of companies, especially in the IT world, and even it transcends to architecture, like people are afraid to niche down and focus and provide really good solution. You know, you think like, oh, I'm going to miss out all these opportunities, so I'm just going to do everything. Well, you know, who do you want to work with, generalist or specialist, right? That's not even a question. That's a rhetorical statement. So, you know, everybody wants to work with a specialist. You know, myself, just very quickly, I've started multiple businesses, exited businesses, currently have 3. I'm in the middle of my sports shop, physical location here in Napa, California. I also am a partner and very passionate partner with Boris. I'm do growth for ArchIT, as well as, you know, we focus on all the educational content. Education is my, by far, the biggest passion. That's what I do. And I think everything we do flows from there. We're sort of the spear point on educating our clients and the industry as a whole on what's new, what's coming up, what's being done, how things are working with other companies. And then we translate all of that into our services, but as well as, like, we just want to do good, right? We want to give, you know, inform people, and we're in a unique position to do that. Enough of that. Let's get into the meat. Okay. So what does it mean to have technology as your competitive advantage? To us, it's 3 things. I always like the rule of 3. It's simpler to manage your life that way. And so one is happy and productive team. I think number one, my business motto has always been singular, no matter what business I run, is like happy employees make happy customers who make happy shareholders, in that order. There's no deviation to that order, no matter what business you're gonna be in. And so happy and productive team is number one outcome from utilizing technology to a competitive advantage. The second aspect is winning great projects. You want to do interesting work. And I think to be in a position to win interesting work, you have to be good. You have to deliver on time. You have to execute. You have to do what you promise. And technology will help you get the better projects from your clients. And then number 3 is be profitable. If you're not profitable, all of this is for naught. Like, that's all fun and games, but when bills come due, you know, that it's a tough situation if you don't have any money to pay for it. And also, you know, let's face it, the opportunity to make money is always a big part of the business, because business cannot survive without profit. There's nothing wrong with profit. So I want to focus on this one quick stat for you in terms of like what technology has done on the stock market. And, you know, you look at Amazon, or you look at a lot of technology that powers businesses like architecture businesses. These technology companies are doing phenomenally well. And I don't know if you ask yourself why. Well, COVID, of course, adoption rates, but that's the key, like the adoption rate. So the reason why they're doing so well is not because, you know, all of a sudden that's where people put money in. Some of it is that speculation stuff, but a lot of it is adoption rates, right? Technology adoption rates are growing, you know, significantly, and you want to make sure that you're part of that curve and you're not left behind. In fact, you're sort of on the forefront, understanding what you need to do to bring your business. One sec. This is whenever I get somebody new.
And I think you got muted too, Alex, by the way.
Yeah, Alex, you need to unmute yourself.
Well, that's wonderful. When did you guys lose me?
No, just now. Just now.
This is the whole presentation I was muted?
No.
Just
right,
now,
so,
as you started moving stuff around.
Sorry about that. So we talked about the stock market and technology piece of it, and how it's sort of the adoption rates are huge. And we don't need to go too far outside. Like I usually in these webinars, I do Sam Walton's and Walmart example, because Sam was an incredible businessman. And, you know, discounters back in when he was doing it in the 40s, I think late 40s, discounters were not a thing. Like there was a general stores and there were not discounters. And he was one of the first ones to start Walmart. And he spent his time, he is not a tech guy at all. What he did is he invested in hiring the top technology minds of their time to be able to build out the infrastructure and build out the Walmart into what it is today. Say what you will about the company. You can love it, hate it, doesn't matter. Point is, they're very, very successful. And a lot of it was because, if you read his book, Made in America, fantastic book, by the way, highly recommended, very inspiring, great story. He flies his plane everywhere and he doesn't have a pilot license anyway, though different times. But Gensler is a very similar example in this particular industry, in the architecture industry. Boris, you want to kind of cover that?
Yes. So, and you mentioned Sam Walton's book, great book. I also read it. So I also read Art Gensler's book, which is called The Principles, and he basically shows a way of how he built Gensler as the company, right, from small firm into this worldwide behemoth of an architecture firm. And again, I'm putting this example here for to show that you can do this as well. And it's not just about technology. The key thing here is systems. And I think what we've been talking about here is that technology enables us to run those systems consistently and more efficiently. So as an example, like Gensler was never running ahead of technology, right? They were not the first to adopt CAD when that just came out. They were not the first to adopt BIM when that came out, but they have had the processes in place to where once the technology became more robust and it became more mature, they were able to bring it in-house, adapt it, and then make it a part of their system and a part of their delivery system so that they can realize all the benefits that come with it. I think that's the most important piece to take out here. And the fact that they currently have teams specifically dedicated to evaluating and adopting design technology speaks to that as well. They have specific teams that do that. So just wanted to bring this up so that we can see how technology can help businesses grow from small companies into large companies.
If you want.
You
You
want.
don't need to be a large company, although I think it's nice. If you got something good, why not grow it, right? If you're solving real problems, solve more of them. But a lot of people are happy with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people shops, and that's all good. Be boutique, just be the best, right? So today we're going to give you a framework. Okay, we're going to give you a framework on how to do this and what to do specifically. And so 3 things we're going to sort of put everything into these 3 shelves, 3 categories to help you have that mental picture of how technology needs to be implemented and utilized in your business. And number 1, as you can connect it to the first couple of slides, is empowering your team, right? You got to give them the ability to do their best work without spending time and effort on finding things, making things work, asking for things that they should have access to, and their work needs to be in front of them. They need to be able to do their best work, and that's one big piece of it. And we're going to talk about this, how to solution around it. Number 2 is defending productivity. Even if you have all your files structured, you have all your systems well set up and connected together, what happens if they fail? That's a major cost to your business when your team is sitting around waiting for your server to be up, or never actually regain access to some of the key files that you're working on for a client. That's a disaster. So defending your productivity is number 2. And the third shelf we're going to put things in is to protecting your business. Cybercrime is big. You know it. We know it. It's a matter of time before we all attempt to steal our information, steal our secrets, steal our company. Just vital to protect your business these days. So let's go ahead and break things down. And let's start with the team first.
So empowering your team. What we're going to try and cover here is how to, as Alex mentioned, how to make sure that your team has access to information, they need to do their daily work. It's been There's been numerous studies done on that, and what has been shown that on average, a knowledge worker or a person who does you know uh, mental tasks, right, and not just physical labor, spends about 2.5 hours a day looking for information to do their work. That means that they're wasting about 30% of their daily work hours just looking for information and not actually being productive and not being efficient. That's a big blow, whether you're a small business or larger firm, to know that 30% of all of all of the time that you're paying your people is going to waste on that. So what some of the solutions that are out there, and we're going to cover some of the really basic ones that can easily be implemented. But the biggest problem that we see, especially in the architecture, engineering, construction industry, is that we use email for most of our communication and collaboration, right? So email is by far the most used tool in the architecture engineering space. We send files, we send emails internally, we send emails to people outside of organization. What we're going to try to focus here is on internal communication and collaboration, and instead of email, trying to use tools like Slack and Microsoft Teams that help us more effectively um, lead conversations and get inputs from multiple people at one time. I mean, we've all been parts of those email threads where there's like 100 emails going back and forth, and really nobody's providing any valuable input or answer to the question that you got. Um, so using Teams for that purpose actually makes it more efficient, to where you can send out a Teams post, or put a Teams post together, and then people that are part of the team, people that need to get you that input, who actually have the data that you're looking for, can reply and share that information right within that post. So um, it makes that more efficient, and also that information stays inside the platform, to where you can easily search for it later if you need to find it again. It's not like looking through emails and trying to see, oh, there was a message 2 years ago that somebody sent me. It's much more, the search function is much better, and you can filter it much more effectively than you can in email. Um, Also, the communication can be much more informal. So you can actually, like, you know, I know sometimes when I sit there and write an email, like it takes me 10 minutes to just see what I'm gonna say, just because I need to structure it properly and say hi and say bye. On Teams, it's much more informal. So you can just send an instant message and say, hey, can you get me this? Or hey, what's going on? Or something like that. So it makes it getting that information much faster as well. And also, and when I say Teams, that could be Slack as well. So I use them interchangeably because they're a very similar product. Although Teams gives you some additional functions, but Slack has that as part of their integrations as well. So all of those things, if you're looking at ways to improve communication and collaboration for your internal team, try looking at the channel communication and collaboration tools to make your business more efficient and more effective in that matter.
So from experience, the onboarding could be a little bit challenging. Some of you are already using that. Some of you are not using it enough. Some of you don't even have it. And so I'll speak to all those cases. Personally, we use here at ArchIT, we use Teams. In fact, Boris and I worked on this presentation yesterday to sort of make sure we have the latest. And guess where we worked on it? In Teams. And guess where it's saved? In Teams. And guess what happened when I needed the latest version this morning? It was in Teams. And we could chat in Teams around this presentation. Once we finish our call, we can do a video call instantly. I mean, it's pretty effective. There's some definite disadvantages. And all of it has to do with training and pretty much a little bit of a latency. That's what I'm noticing. Like, it's honest opinion that it's not as like snappy, let's say, as maybe Slack would be. But all your Word documents, all of your documents, I mean, everything is connected. And when you communicate about a project with your team, the project materials are there on a table, essentially. Like, think about this. You're around the table and all the materials are on the table. Now you have a conversation versus, oh, let me go find this file. Oh, let me go find this picture. Oh, that's where the waste comes in. Anyway, so that's personal, a little bit of personal experience. Don't let me ramble on, Boris. Hit the defend productivity piece.
All right. So number 2 is defending productivity. I don't know if we ever think about this in these terms, but just imagine, if we have a 10-person architecture firm and all of a sudden we can't access any of our files for one day. So we're basically, if we do the math right, we're basically losing about $13,000 in that one day for a 10-person firm. That's a lot. I mean, we have a lot of clients that are about that size. And if I ask them, would you just throw away $13,000? None of them would say yes, right? And it would be a big deal to even think about that. So, but that's 10-person firm. What about if, you have a 50-person firm or a 100-person firm? Like, how do you ensure that all the technology that you implemented, all the systems that you put in place, and that technology helps you support, that technology actually stays up so that you're working and not being interrupted for things like downtime. So some quick causes of unexpected downtime. Number one cause, and this is the survey that was done just earlier in 2020, so it's about a 1 year old. So the number one cause of unexpected downtime is hardware failure. Number 2 is security and cybersecurity issues. Number 3 is a localized disaster, such as a power outage or a flood or a fire in the building. And then the really low percentage is the geographical area disaster, such as a earthquake, hurricanes, and so on. We've seen that happen, play out in Houston a couple of years ago with the hurricane there, and then again in Texas this year with, the snowstorms. I mean, people were affected at that time, and they were, nobody was really conducting any business. But those things you can't really deal with. You can only plan and prepare for. So on the next slide here, we can talk about what we can actually do to improve on a few of these things. So since hardware failure is by far the biggest, source of unexpected downtime, the easiest thing to do is making sure that you have hardware that is up to date and that is also redundant, somewhat redundant to standards, right? So, if you're a small shop, make sure that all your workstations that you're working on, using your tools, CAD, Revit, V-Ray, what have you, make sure that when you actually bought them. A lot of times when we talk to business owners and we ask this question, well, how old are your computers? Well, I think we just recently got them, so they should be okay. And then when we go in and we actually take a look, it's like 6 or 7 years old. We as people tend to underestimate those things of when things actually happen. So what you want to do is go back, check out when it was bought. You can get that information. Like if you have a serial number to the machine, just type it into a Dell website or a Lenovo website or a HP website, and it'll tell you exactly when you purchased it, how much warranty it has, and how long it's been, right? You want to keep your hardware within 3 to 5 years for useful operation, especially if it's your primary machine that you're doing your designs on. If it's older than 5 years, then most likely, the risk of failure is fairly high at that point. And also, most likely you're wasting a lot of time and you don't notice it by the machine just being slow. It is a much better investment to go out and get a new machine to lower the risk of downtime and also to make you work faster and better. So that would be a thing, that would be number one. Just look at what you have.
Take inventory, put the dating on it, understand how old is your equipment. Don't be surprised when, 3 to 5 years old, 5 years old plus equipment fails. Expect it. It's going to happen, right? A lot of us are sort of like, as Boris said, like, I think the computer here, Chad's computer, is pretty good, but it's actually 9 years old. So it's not. I'm not saying that I'm not eating the dog food. I'm eating the dog food. We're upgrading all the equipment. This is I recently just got this business. It's a new business I got. But anyway, it's 9 years old, and it looks. I mean, it looks maybe like it's 2 years old. I don't know. Anyway, so documenting and taking inventory of your equipment. And another thing is AT&T like router. Like we talked about this in one of our blogs or video blogs. We talked about how to make your home Wi-Fi faster. You know how old your router is? Well, that's Boris. What's the useful life of a router?
Well, if it's a home router, like the one that AT&T and Comcast provides, it's about 2 years. Like they already have newer models, so you should be able to call them up and get a newer model.
And we did, and guess what? We followed the advice. We called them. They put a brand new router. It's right here, and it makes a big difference. It does make a big difference. But anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt. Let's just go.
Hey, no problem, Alex. No problem. No problems. I love it. I love it. I love it when you share. That's great. So second is invest in cybersecurity, and we're going to have a whole section on this later in this presentation. So I'm going to skip that for right now. And then third is what I mentioned, have a plan, right, in case a disaster happens. Whether it's a local disaster or a much larger disaster, you want to have a plan. And, a lot of people think, well, if we have an earthquake and the whole Bay Area goes under the ocean, I'm not going to have my clients and I'm not going to have my business, so I don't have to worry about it. Sure, you don't have to worry about that one, probably, although I would. But most of the time, disasters are not like that, right? They're not as big as that. I'll share my story now. So this actually happened to us at my previous firm. So it didn't happen to our clients, it happened to us, right? So we were on the 14th floor in a downtown San Francisco building. We had a startup, that technology startup, move in on the 17th floor. And basically, I think they had like a moving party and they knocked off one of the sprinklers. And it was like late Friday night, nobody noticed. I guess, I don't know what the building management was doing, but that's a different story for a different time. Nobody noticed. And we got a call on Sunday morning, that same weekend, that we can't go into the building on Monday because the electrical room has been flooded and basically our floor doesn't have any power, right? So we had the building had power from 1 to 8, but it didn't have power from 8 to, I think it was like 20 something floor. So that type of stuff happens, and it happens a lot, right? So the good thing is we actually had a disaster recovery plan. So on Sunday, myself and a couple of other employees came in. We actually had on-premise file servers. We took those servers to our co-location that when we established our plan, we already rented the co-location. We took our servers to that co-location. We got everything set up, and on Monday morning, our employees were working remotely, right? We didn't have to come into the office. But imagine all the other businesses in that building that may not have had this plan. We were not allowed to go back in until a week later. I think it was like 9 to 10 days. I think we came back in on Wednesday. So during that time, those other businesses most likely were not able to function either at full capacity or function at all. So that's a big deal. Just having a plan actually makes all the difference. Obviously, you have to execute on it. But what I'm talking about here is just doing that startup phase where you just plan to make sure that you can protect yourself from these type of things.
So two takeaways I'm downloading from this is, number one is when a startup moves above, below, or next to you, be aware. These guys love to party. And number two, on a disaster plan, like I'm coining the new saying that is like, you only need it if you need it, but if you need it, you really need it. There's it doesn't work written down.
So do the work before you need it.
All right, let's hit security. We're about 33 minutes, so we want to kind of, we're moving at a good clip.
Yeah, we are. So cybersecurity, and we have specifically dedicated section to this. Um, Again, this is data from 2020, but cybercrime was close to four, uh, was close to, sorry, it was a multi-billion dollar industry in 2020, and it's only growing, right? As we're working remotely, everybody's away from the office. Our employees, our team becomes a much easier target for cyber criminals. And it doesn't matter if you're running a small one-person firm, two-person firm, 10-person firm, or 1,000-person firm. Um, these guys act as cartels, right? They're basically going for volume, um, and their goal is to get you infected in most cases to generate some revenue for them. They're treating this as a business. This is basically a big business now where the bad guys are trying to take as many files as they can hostage so that they can then get some ransom back for releasing those files. So it will happen. If it hasn't happened to you, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but it will happen to you. So the only thing you can really do is, again, have a plan in place on how you're going to protect yourself and how you're going to react when this happens. So, and I'm gonna just do a quick quote from my cybersecurity professor back in college, and this was over 25 years ago, or
No, you look a
20
lot younger
something.
than
20 something. He basically said this: the only system that is 100% secure is the one that's disconnected or powered off, right? So if you have a computer that's powered on and it's connected to the internet, you are not secure, or at least you're not secure 100%. You can get yourself as close as possible to 100% by following some of the basic cybersecurity recommendations, but you will still never be 100% secure because the bad guys are always ahead of the good guys. They only need to penetrate, they only need to find one hole where the good guys need to protect against all the little holes that are out there. So that's
a lot.
kind of
As
my
long as that
spiel on being
whole
secure. And so on the next slide here, we're going to talk about what is the first step to cybersecurity. Well, it's been known that no matter how much technology you put out there to protect yourself, your employees is your biggest risk. Um, your team members, your employees, they're your weakest link because they are the ones who are going to click on that bad link to get to get ransomware in, or they're the ones who are going to forward that one email, which with a funny video that has a virus in it, to the rest of the company, right? So what becomes very, very important is employee cybersecurity training. So that's our step one: is make sure that you have training for your employees and your team members um, on regular basis, right? Make sure that you share, um, you know, it, you can have online services that do that. You can bring in special people who train. We do training for our clients, but basically make sure that this is a regular thing that happens. This gets overlooked a lot.
hmm.
Again, we're like, yeah, let's make sure the technology is here. Let's make sure we um, put all this in. But none of this works unless your employees are trained properly. I mean, one of the bigger scams I participated in uncovering, right, was when a friend of mine last year, I think it was like April, just called me up and basically said, "Look, I think can you?" Oh, he called me in panic and he's like, "Can you help me try to figure this out? I think something just happened that's pretty bad." And this was a commercial real estate firm that basically they sent they sent multiple millions dollars check. I think it was $8 million. I forget now, but basically um, they sent a check for that amount of money to a contractor, or they thought they were paying their bills, but these were bad guys who took them, right? And the way they did it is they infiltrated the contractor's email. They were spying in that email. They've read through all the messages, then they then posed as a project manager, um, and sent an email back to the commercial real estate company asking, saying, hey, it's COVID and can you make sure that you pay all your invoices right away? We got to pay our team. Our cash flows are not there. Hopefully you understand, right? And, long story short, all the communication happened via email between the commercial real estate company and this fake contractor, where they bought a specific domain that looked very similar. So I mean, it was a very sophisticated attack. They did a lot of homework. They did a lot of work to make sure that it gets executed and that they get paid. And in the end, they got paid. They got, I think it was close to $8 million. So that being said, it was all employees that kind of made that all happen, because they allowed emails in because they thought it was a real email address, and so on and so on. So your employees is your weakest link. I guess that's the moral of the story.
The moral of this, but like, as I remember, like, because you told the story multiple times, and every time it's fascinating to hear and fish out new details. But the team member who forwarded this email onto a manager who eventually paid took it out of the folder that was dangerous, right? What do you call that folder?
So they actually had Mimecast, which is a really good tool to protect your email. They had that implemented, and it flagged the message as a bad message. But the employee went in there and released the message because they felt that
it looked legit. Yeah, the sophistication of that attack was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, had the employee had more training, I'm pretty sure that would not have happened, or at least they would have forwarded the message to their IT department and said, hey, this looks fishy, can you check it out?
Gotcha. All right, so let's sum this up and just go into questions. I'm sure there might be more specific how questions, and but the three things we talked about today. How do you organize this movement of your organization into a happy place? And that's, one is effective team. That's your collaboration and communication technology. Number two is effective systems. That's minimizing interruptions, taking inventory. Remember, taking inventory, knowing how old your equipment is, those kinds of things. And number three is effective security, right? That's what we just spoke about. So malware, spyware, ransomware, those are all a must. But employee training, and we're going to start our own series here on Design Under Influence, which is our own video show that Boris and I are doing, educational show. And then we're going to actually put out some episodes that can be shared with your employees. So stay tuned for that. But yes, employee training is key. Why is it doing that? And then I guess there's a sort of three-way to leverage the tech, right? So now we talked about three different areas how you manage migrating your technology and getting your business on getting your efficiency for your business. But the way you actually evaluate technology is you assess your needs, you select some providers, right? Then you pick one and then you implement. How we recommend to sort of adjust this a little bit for your firm is to, assess your current systems in those three areas that we just discussed, which is, getting your team, empowering your team, defending your productivity, and securing your business. Those are the three core components, and assess what you currently have against those three areas. Identify opportunities, and whoever is your IT provider, or maybe you have internal folks, or maybe you are watching, you need to have some kind of key performance indicators, and then your IT company needs to provide you recommendations, or your new IT company, whoever you're hiring, need to have recommendations specific to your budget, how to implement tech and move your business further. So yeah, let's take your business to the next level, and then would love to take questions. And we firmly believe that technology is your competitive advantage, but we'll take some questions if there are any right now. Some music.
Come on.
All right, so type them into the chat. Boris, can you check the chat, because I'm still sharing this thing?
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat right now. There hasn't been anything that came in.
All right.
People
I
are
will give it
either
a minute.
shy or blown away.
Are there any options for not having a physical server, all your files on a physical server? Is that what people do in order to just, sort of keep yourself running in the event of one of those disasters? Is that an idea that people are trying, or does that even exist? Or
Well, it does. Depends on what your, it depends on what your industry is and what the tool set you're using, right? So for architects and engineers, for example, if architects are using just AutoCAD, um, and it's a small firm that where one employee is dedicated to a project where you're not really sharing projects, then you can use cloud services like Microsoft OneDrive, Google Drive, even Dropbox for Business to host those files. So that's an option for sure. If once you get into Revit, then you need to basically work with Autodesk set of tools, and those tools like BIM 360 help you share and collaborate Revit models in real time. So it depends on the tool set that you have. What type of tools are you using right now?
well, we have just a file server, that where we keep our correspondence and the typical project files, and we do utilize BIM 360 for the Revit stuff. So the question is really about the file server and all that way, we don't have to have an IT closet anymore. That's what is there a server in the cloud that,
Yeah,
we need a lot of space though, it's not like a 10-person, company.
So there's two aspects of it, and I can give you more detailed answer if you just want to give me if you just give me a call, I can give you a more detailed answer. But to make the quick answer here is you can store all of your files, including models and documents, in BIM 360 as long as everybody's licensed, right? Now, if you want to save costs on licensing because you only have 2 or 3 BIM 360 licenses and you don't want to pay for everybody because they're not architects or designers, you can add another service such as Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive or Dropbox for Business or Box. I mean, there's a lot of different services, and we can make recommendations. I mean, we are to be 100% upfront, we're a Microsoft and Google reseller. So to us, those services are probably the best. We chose them out of all the other ones. But yeah, you can use that to store the documents like your Word docs, your PDFs, your Excel files, and things like that.
Good question. Thank you.
All right, what else we got here? We've got a question from Rob. Have you implemented cloud-based security firewalls, and what is a good one? We have, again, depends on the cloud service. And also, Rob, we need to talk more just because I can understand better. But if we are talking about protecting your on-premise with cloud firewall, then I think the on-premise hardware is still better. If we're talking about protecting your cloud environment, like in AWS or in Azure, then in that case, I would use something similar to what you have on premise. Like, for example, if you're using a Fortinet, they have a virtual appliance, right, that you can put in Azure or AWS. So I guess I need to understand the situation better. And I don't know if you want to talk about this now, or we can talk about this, just schedule a call.
We can talk about it offline, but I'm talking about protecting everything. I was looking at Palo Alto Networks, drawing a blank on the name of the thing now, but they basically have a cloud-based security that protects your users connecting from anywhere to anything. So if you're connecting to Azure or AWS or BIM 360, it's like monitoring all the traffic and everything.
So it's basically a cloud firewall for cloud services.
Yeah, as well as protecting connections into your office.
Remote connections into your office. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, there's a few products that are like that. We can take it offline. I can send you an email with some information.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Thank you for the question.
What about visual technology to present? Ability to use augment visual goggles, sharing BIM files?
Can you read a question, Boris? Can you read a little bit louder?
Yes, I'm going to, sorry. So this is a question from Michael. What about visual technology to present? Ability to use, augment, visual goggles, sharing BIM files, ownership issues, is that another topic of discussion? Yeah, I think, Michael, we can take this offline as well. So you can, I mean, at the base level, again, using Zoom and using Microsoft Teams or using any other provider can be a good start. And with, all of them are implementing, kind of the whiteboard technology where you can sketch on top of things and collaborate in that way. But if you want to, I guess if you want to share the experience of like a 3D walkthrough of a project, right, with a client who's remote or the team who's remote, there are a few tools out there, but they're really raw. I mean, I don't think that technology, at least in my opinion, is 100% there yet. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for the question.
Ulio for VR. I'm actually going to take a look at that. And see what that is. So we had a comment here from Jeremy that they're using a tool called Ulio.
What is it called?
Ulio, Y-U-L-I-O.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, Ulio is it's like a service. It's a service that hosts your BIM models, and you can kind of set point renders, and you send out a Google Cardboard to your clients, and then you can have a meeting with as many people as you want, all online or all in the room together. But Ulio kind of hosts the model and the meeting, VR meeting.
Okay. Is there a limitation on size of the models that they can host, or is it, any model, whether it's residential or commercial, fits the bill?
Well, basically, you export an image. It's a stereoscopic image, like a 3D box. It's just images, and then you host it on there. So it doesn't matter the size really. It's just it's like and you can put a floor plan up there, and then you sort of say, go to the next view, go to the next view. What you can't do is walk through the model.
Right. So it's not a real.
It's not a model. Yeah,
Right.
it's a point render, but it's working pretty good. Yeah, you can use SketchUp. It's got a bunch of different plugins that you can use it with. It's been pretty successful for us.
Very cool. Thank you for
Awesome.
sharing.
Thank you for sharing.
Ulio, guys and girls. So yeah, go check that out.
Any other questions?
Sweet. I think we're free to go. And those of you who didn't have lunch, awesome. Let's go, get some food. Those of you who had lunch, get back to your day. Thanks a lot for watching. We appreciate your time. And ArchIT, you can find us at getarchit.com. If you need any help with IT or just a question, we're happy to answer. Thank you.
Yeah, Rob, and I'm going to follow up with the email.
Thanks for presenting, you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.